I'm a minute late, sorry, 5:31. Call order the Champaign Park Board meeting. First up. Public comment, none? Okay.
Don't have to read all that.
Then I don't have to read, yeah. Communications, want to read any of that? No? Okay. We are moving on, new business. Approval agreement with 40 North for placement of Twisted Sisters sculpture at Porter Pond.
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. In December, we started working with 40 North, who has taken over the services of the Public Art League, who has previously helped us place sculpture throughout the Park District. In some cases, it's been where we've taken over ownership, and in other cases, we've leased the sculpture from the artists through the facilitating organization. Previously Public Art League, now currently 40 North. So in December, 40 North put out a call to artists, and we had, I think, over 30 different sculptures to choose from, along with the city of Urbana and the Urbana Park District. And we shared our interest for several pieces that we felt like would fit well in openings in Porter Park. Only one of those pieces has come through so far, which is Twisted Sister, but we're also expecting Scalar to come in the near future. So one of the pieces of tonight is if you have any suggestions on where you feel like that piece might fit well. We are also having staff investigate some options for that piece, but we'd love to have your opinion on that. But otherwise, we gave you some more information on the artist who created the Twisted Sister sculpture and came and installed at no charge, in addition to the $3,000 total cost for the 2-year lease, which is the lease agreement itself is facilitated by 40 North, as was clarified in some of our communications. The piece has been installed. I think it fits very well in that setting. And in addition to that, we continue to get feedback from the board on our sculpture program and what's next. So we're looking at different spots throughout the district to add to our collection, as well as to find a really marquee piece to fit at the corner of Rising and Windsor, where that's right, where Porter Park is, that we've had a vacancy for a while. So we're working with several different organizations, including 40 North, to find a really showcase piece to put there. But in the meantime, this seems like a good addition. As well as you probably have noticed, pieces are getting installed for the Great Outdoors as well, which has been a more robust program this year. So I think that covers most of the basics. Happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
I'll just add we're covering this cost with foundation funds. There's $20,000 in a public art line item in foundation. So the $3,000 for this, and then additionally when we find a location for the other sculpture, and hopefully identify something for.
There's some questions earlier on this, all satisfactorily answered.
Yeah, I think so. The compensation component is a pretty major component of contracts, and I'm used to seeing that. I've just been seeing that it's customary or listed.
We can add it in. I mean, the agreement is basically this document that 40 North has used for a long time. But yeah.
Or the question putting that out in our clarification. I'm used to seeing
Okay.
that.
Related to your point about the other, I noticed as I was going through the list of where sculptures are located, in which parks, and then as part of one of our later discussion items, I kind of paid a visit. Nothing at Heritage Park, no sculptures out there. I mean, that's part of our longest continuous trail. Also the East Prairie restoration there. I'm ashamed to admit that before I started showing an interest in the board here, I didn't even know that was Park District. There's no signage. There were, paths cut in there and it's, once you get in there, it's great. So, something like that draws attention to the fact that, hey, this is not just land waiting to be developed. This is actually park, sculpture, and that might help. Set it off. Anything else on that? Not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
First and second,
Well, second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next up are discussion items. We're gonna change up the order a little bit. Number 2, YMCA request for pond expansion, random of understanding discussion. We're gonna do that one first, since our guests, our friends from the Y are here.
Yes, so, in February, we, discussed, some plans for, YMCA to expand the facility and a request to, expand the pond at, Zond. We have some updated information, and a request for, some cost sharing, in the expansion. Park District's contribution, would be towards our any sort of future use that we would have at that Zond parcel, but also at Zond Park. So in consideration of that, we have a MOU, draft MOU. Guy has not had ample time to review it, so I'd like to have discussion and any questions on just the overall thought and concept, and then we can, as he reviews the MOU for like more specific contract language, I think we can discuss that. We've got Jeff Scott here from the YMCA in Mountain, and also yes, Chad from Fairgraham. I did distribute I emailed a document, an additional document earlier today that had a little bit more information on where these numbers came from and current capacity of the pond, estimated percentage of usage in future. So just there's no action on the table. This is a discussion. And I guess if anything, maybe seeking a straw poll on whether there's direction to continue forward.
Questions on the memo or the discussion there?
No, I know I had some and I kind of indicated in February. I mean, if this is something that we're gonna need every time Zon's discussed, it feels like additional drainage is mentioned in some capacity. So I feel like that this makes a lot of sense. The 372 figure was a little higher than what I had initially thought, maybe, but that's just my initial.
We Nick, I know you had mentioned at one point in the meeting that is possibly the highest that we might see, but can you speak to that at all?
Yeah,
Or
like
maybe Chad?
Jeff, I might speak to it maybe on the cost piece, it's a conservative number now that I think. It's an early estimate, the way that MOU is drafted is we reconcile that cost, so. That cost comes in lower than that split would be this set framework of the split. But yeah, that's kind of the early estimate, it feels conservative.
Yeah, it's just a design development number from ratio or from Romulo in the early bidding process, and that's the number they came up with, and then it was broken out based on the numbers that Chad gave us some flow and all that kind of stuff. So it was part of the actual bid process that we went to provide.
So can I ask you, as I've read this and I've looked at it in several different ways, but I wanted to try and get some degree of clarity that my understanding of this document is that it is to lead to a development agreement. To be an ongoing agreement over a period of years, as long as the detention is there, and presumptively that's going to be, at least in our lifetimes, always there. But as I read this document, I see it as a non-binding agreement, that it's just an outline of the terms and the estimated costs that will go into this particular project. It isn't final in any particular way. So essentially, as I typically have drafted and received from other people, it's a non-binding agreement. It's just, here are the parameters for negotiation, as this says in 1.1. And I think that's important to the park board to know that should they agree to this, and we may want to adjust some terms, there's not finality to this. So we've got something further down the road that's really going to spell out these costs and everything else in detail. So I see, Nick, you're shaking your head, so
Yeah.
I presume that is the case. And if it's not, then, I think the board should be informed of that.
No, I think that's the intent. Chad is not, Barry has not done a final design, they laid out some, what that will potentially look like, but I think the goal will be to, if directionally this makes sense, the split arrangement, then design will be done, final cost to be produced. I think it talks in here about, all parties agreeing upon final design as well, obviously. So I think we'll speak for Jeff, but for the Y, I continue to proceed with what they need for their project. They need some level of assurance that directionally this is what all three parties agree upon, with finality to become a future agreement.
In the event that the board would want to continue in this direction, can you send me this document in a Word form so that I can prepare the suggestions, recommendations that I would make to the board?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Consider as a word, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what any feedback.
Okay, I'll double check that then, if it's already in there in that format.
And one of the questions I had was, it alludes to maintenance between over 10,000, but it doesn't allude to anything from 0 to 2,000 or 10,000. So some of those terms would need to be tightened up as well, because I would assume that if we go forward with this, it's, though we still own the water good. I would think things would be continue to be shared at whatever level is agreed upon,
Right.
with the division of the
Right.
usage.
Yeah, and those are all things that, if you have thoughts about those kinds of details, would, in my understanding, be in a ultimate development agreement, but they can also be reflected in a memorandum of understanding, so that as we've done in other situations, here's the outline, the memorandum of understanding of where you want things to go, and then they get inserted into a development agreement that is the ultimate document that everybody operates under.
and once the final design's done, I mean, that would go in that agreement too, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And the path around the lake has to completely be redone,
so just one side.
just one side.
Okay.
I think so.
Yes.
As mentioned, I think, directionally, if those things are important, those would be good to know now, so that, the structure of as we move forward, that, it's not surprises later, maybe this doesn't work. But I think that maintenance piece was drafted in a way that the park district would continue to kind of mow around and maintain it that way. That part would necessarily be shared, but protecting the park district from a dredging down the road or something larger than that, and certain waters. That can discuss with this local acre.
And just in terms of the path, repouring, so essentially we'd be straightening out the path to have a. It's a nice like kind of break and curvy now, but we actually see a benefit to it being straightened out for the events that we do on the trail.
Just so I'm understanding, I mean, we're gonna have to redo this at some point for our own needs. I mean, even if there were no why or no. And so we are getting the new shore with, you know, the wrap and all that, so that needs to happen anyway. But this is obviously. We're losing a little park, it's still our park, but it's gonna be on the water, depending on how much rain we get. So it's our land, and I think I recall from, you know, earlier discussion that, I mean. If we don't share this. Basin, I'm all in favor of being efficient, but. I mean, the alternative is. Gonna cost quite a bit more. For our partners. So is there any consideration given for the fact that. It's Park District land and. You know, we're. Doing a favor, we're happy to do that favor, but, you know, we're doing a favor for Carl and the Y and all this.
I mean. They're gonna do the work.
Meaning they're going to do the work, they're gonna pay for it all, or what do you mean they're doing the work?
Well, they're doing the work of the expansion and so, it's an equal trade-off, but,
One less project to manage down the road.
But the costs are shared based on this formula, so that's really not any extra benefit for owning the land.
Right, that's what Mike's getting at.
I don't wanna see it, I guess, I don't wanna see it fall on the back of taxpayers. That help. Carl and the Y, again. This is a community good, but. I guess, yeah, I just have some concerns.
Might be some consideration given to the fact that it is the Park District property.
Correct.
I mean,
I don't know how
we've
these
seen
things-
how it ends up when we let, like at Heritage Park, other people, when they develop that other area, drained into it and it silts up. And there is no agreement there, at least here there'd be an agreement. But I'm more concerned with the ongoing maintenance and. I was telling Guy, I almost think there should be some kind of budget put together every year, and we know in so many years we're gonna have to dredge this thing. And keep a bank account with money in there from all partners, so when that happens. There's money to pay for it, and somebody doesn't say, well, I can't come up with my $60,000. You never know where things will be. 15, 20 years from now. When the time comes.
There's some basic maintenance language in the MOU, but I mean, I feel like that's something that we could build out. Development agreement.
Yeah. Because I know in most detention basin agreements, that's how it's. There's a reserve fund established and so much is put into it every year by all those that benefit from. The detention basin, and then when you have. Issues. There's money to pay for them.
Is there a way that you could take this pond and put it into an LLC or some type of corporation and split the ownership?
That sounds like what we were talking about with the school district and
Well, in this case, we'd be one of the partners and the Y would be one and Carl would be one, and I mean, I can't tell by looking at where this is, if it's an easy piece of property that you could. And then that way you just all share, I mean, there's a,
Well, that's how a detention basin association, you have an FBI number, you know. You each have.
it seems plainer to me than if we are trying to take our property and share it with two other entities, but again, it's, could be a crazy idea, but
It could be. Well, I think that there are some considerations along those lines. One is surrendering control of property that is owned by the park district. The other flip side is there are things called public-private partnerships. And, you know, this would be a kind of small area for that kind of thing. It's something that we could explore if you wanted to do that.
well, it answers Mike's question because we would get some kind of credit for contributing the
But don't
piece of property itself.
public-private partnerships then get taxed, real estate taxes or not?
Well,
Since there's, it's not
Yeah.
just.
yeah, I mean, those considerations that we'd have to go through the checklist of all these things. I mean, obviously, the detention basin at this point, and with any other thing where the title remains in the park district would be tax exempt. So we'd have to look at, you know, all those issues and bring those to you to see if there's value to you in doing it in that fashion, if it makes sense for the other parties to be involved in that kind of thing that may or may not be interested in some form of ownership aspect of the property, but it doesn't complicate things.
And that would be like a level above like the shared use agreement.
Yeah, because you'd be putting title to the property would be, you know, a shared use agreement is just, or a development agreement as it's been characterized here, is just an agreement over time. But if you do something like a public-private partnership or some other conveyance of real estate, it really, you know, complicates titling or complicates insurance issues and any number of insurance tax, a number of different aspects. So.
And how does that work insurance wise if it stays as what's proposed and something? Is it our insurance that because it's our property?
Well, I think we would have probably some provision in a development agreement that would call for the Y and the Carl to insure the property as well for their errors and omissions, just like we would be insuring for our errors and omissions. And it, you know, depends on whose conduct is involved. But since it benefits all three parties, we want to have some language to that effect. And so it's a complicated little transaction. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, that's great. In a public-private partnership, if you've got, how is the decision made? If you've got three entities, I presume two of the entities get together, vote one way, we're the odd man out, then we gotta go along with whatever their decision is.
Well, yeah, I
I'm
mean,
gonna be reluctant to go down to shares.
well, yeah,
No
and
offense, Kevin.
right, and you could weight the voting, you know, particular things. I mean, this could be kind of a complicated transaction.
Yes, because waiting can be broke by the amount of what you're contributing.
What your interest is in.
What your interest is.
Yeah,
Which puts us out anyway. Cause we're the lowest. Aren't we the
Right, we're the
lowest, lowest user or whatever, however you wanna frame it.
depending on how you characterize the contribution of the land of the
Right.
transaction.
The land
Yeah,
build up your.
So.
There's lots of ways to slice the pie.
Back to my original, I mean, every time we talk about this area, drainage is an issue, and it keeps being brought up, so. I think we should certainly pursue this in some capacity, what it ultimately ends up looking like. I hear your remarks and I agree, but. If we get to the point and say we've got to develop this area and put in X, Y, and Z. I don't care if it's 10, 20, 30 years down the road, that same discussion is going to be had. I can't say with any certainty it's gonna be more expensive 10, 20, or 30 years down the road, but I would be inclined to say that it is.
It's not gonna be any less.
I don't have a crystal ball, but can't say that with I'm pretty confident it will be less.
Would be helpful for Chad to kind of give what the current pond looks like, what the future pond looks like, because I think to me, that's an important piece of it, kind of current state of it. That eventually needs some cost to get redone anyway, so maybe Chad can speak to that, what that would look like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that we would be improving upon. Obviously, you talked about the riprap and around the, and over time, that shoreline could kind of fluff off. Through things and so on, that is improving it through that. One of the aspects of this pond is this area has, some sandy soils, and so, it's noticeable that the pond level drops when it gets dry out, right? And we think it's always seeping into that, into those sandy soils, infiltrating and dropping the level. And so one of those improvements is, that we would identify those sandy soil areas and line that with clay to prevent that from happening in the future. So you'd see more of a permanent pool elevation. And then, one of the other things we're doing here is, that pond is going to get deeper by about 5 feet. I will say that's 5 feet lower from its original designed elevation at the bottom. Obviously, we can't tell what that has silted end up to, but it may even be more than 5 feet. That kind of things you were talking about.
You aren't dredging when you go into this, are you?
Yeah, we'll be deepening it.
By dredging out the silt?
Expanding the footprint of it as well, yeah.
So you'll dredge out the silt that's already there?
Right.
And so the design is based on what they plan on building and also what was recommended, what option of
The full concept. That was presented.
Should cut down on our mowing bill.
For sure.
One thing about it too is the cost is definitely lowest for you, but if you take the new zone and the old zone, it actually is about 35% of the capacity of the pond. So Park District would have about 35% of that capacity. I think Carl has somewhere a little higher than that, and we have about 17, 20% of that. So.
and is it going to be like kind of funnel shape where it's deeper in the middle, or is it gonna be pretty much?
Yeah, so we generally come down at a 4-to-1 slope, which means every 4 feet you drop about a foot, so that you're not going straight down. So it's definitely deepest at the middle. It's not that same depth all the way through. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what do you anticipate the depth at the deepest points?
I think it's from the water elevation. Keep in mind there would be about from the water elevation up, there's 3 or 4 feet, of air.
Right.
But from the water elevation down, I think it's 8 feet, 8 to 9 feet. At its deepest.
Okay.
Like similar design to the Carl Fields ponds that are out there, so.
Yeah.
One question I had along the way too was what's the estimate of when that thing would need to be dredged? Like how long are we talking? And
In its current?
well, not the
Not
current.
once that-
I
okay.
would say that's probably not long.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the water goes down, I can see the bottom, so, but I just mean once it's dug out and redone and completely back to a new starting.
Carl Field ponds have been there 8 years and they're decades away from being dredged.
Probably not the lifetime of anybody here. Got my- I just, boy, I mean. You may get a little bit of silt in there during construction, but I mean, the amount, we don't have. The agricultural land, all service drains to the south. Might be anything, from a agricultural standpoint, draining in, there really shouldn't be much. Talking accumulation, it'll take many, many years.
Going forward, yeah, I think the ratios, based on the usage, fine, as far as maintenance, and then everybody pays those shares, I guess the 1.6 million. To do the project in the first place. That is the pond only, is that moving the sidewalk as well?
It's all, I think that.
That's everything, so that is moving the path as well. I guess that's, that's helpful to us, but again, I guess just that initial 373,000 seems like quite a bite when we're providing the site, which, benefits the whole project there in the first place. So, ongoing, I'm fine with the ratios, I guess, the one-time front. It seems like we should get some consideration just on the front end. That's my thought.
President Summers, may I ask a question? Just for a point of clarification, Fairground may have covered this already, but Attorney Hall, wondering about private entity developing on Park District land. Are they subject to the laws that we are bidding, prevailing wage, et cetera? So I don't know if that's been included in your pricing, if you covered that already.
I think you have to be prevailing wage, right? I mean, pretty sure.
Yeah, because public funds would be used in the project. I think, we could try and wrestle with that issue, but I don't know that it's worth wrestling about. So.
I think it's planned, bro.
Right.
Well, yeah. I'm just considering we usually end up paying higher because we're entity in general.
Yes, we do, so it's not, yes.
So just want to make sure the pricing is apples to
Price
apples.
is correct.
Hey,
Marguerite, are you clear on kind of the discussion there?
I made some notes on next steps for the legal review to continue, pointing out that it is non-binding. The parameters of the discussion does include prevailing wage. The percentages are correct, the depth, and of course, I don't know if there'd be any language of when we would, or it would just be conversation of when the terms would be agreed upon, or if it would just be a meeting moving forward.
Well, it's all up to the board.
Well, we would like to bring the MOU for approval to the August 12th board meeting.
So maintenance and insurance.
Maintenance and insurance, I assume Mr. Guy would make sure it is included.
And your issue,
And my
Yeah.
issue of
the credit for
some sort of, credit for
the contribution of the current fund,
on the site.
site.
I don't know how to word that. Are you thinking? To come back with a lower number?
Or our percentage.
For our initial outlay of that 1.6 mil. The Park District getting some sort of consideration for the contribution of the site itself.
Maybe just a note on that two community partners, one which donated a $700,000 trail to the park district for city public's benefit. So I think there is a partnership here that's been established for a long time as well. But understand, look at that.
And I can appreciate the contribution. It's again just taxpayers come in and say, whoa, what are you doing with my money, helping, and
Yeah,
so, the partnership is always appreciated, but
yeah,
we just want to make sure we're looking out for the best interest.
yeah, no, I understand as a Champaign resident, and I think, but there's also cost the park district has here that it's part of this, right? It's not the all to the benefit of the two parties, it's a mutual benefit, understand.
This probably, when we're doing visioning tonight, this probably wouldn't be a subject that we would be including at this time in our vision. Because we're a ways from developing or even making a plan, deciding on the plan for Zion Park. So I think that's one of the other issues for us is asking us for a more immediate contribution of our funds for a project that we may or may not have had on the front burner for us. So
Understood.
Clear? Thank you for open out discussion here. Next item, potential open space lands acquisition and development projects. You've got 3.
Yes, so the application is open currently for pardon me, just okay. The application is open right now for OSLAD's applications. It's due August 31st. We'd like to hear your thoughts. We've staff has talked, any number of projects that we could submit for an OSLAD grant. We've kind of narrowed those down to these 3 items, these 3 ideas that we think all will score well. They I don't know, we feel like they're all valuable projects, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on if you favor one over the other, one over the other 3. So the first is kind of a refresh of Eisner Park. I've spent a lot of time at Eisner this past spring and summer. My son's home baseball field was at Eisner. The park is heavily used. It's busy all the time with different user groups. There's people from the neighborhood who are there. There's people who drive there. There's people walking around. There's people who use the tennis courts as a dog park, which is part of the idea of this project to maybe codify that. Just it's a busy space, and maybe we could use a little bit of some love, adding a perimeter pathway. There's a lot of people who utilize the park, walking their dogs and just being in the space. We've got a really nice accessible playground there already. Basketball court is heavily used as well. So that's project 1. And then to convert the tennis courts, which are actually not really heavily utilized, into a secured off-leash dog area. This would be kind of the first introduction of a satellite dog park. We hear from time to time feedback from residents that there is a desire for more off-leash areas within our parks. So that's the first option. The second one would be improvements to Dodd's Park, including turfing a few soccer fields, the three main soccer fields in the middle of the soccer complex. Adding some more interior pathways and connections. And then also adding some spectator seating to the Pumy soccer fields. Dodd's Park is also heavily utilized, both on the soccer side and the 3 and 4 plex. And but it lacks some trails throughout it and pathways throughout. We see both a maintenance and revenue and just usage potential, additional usage potential with turfing those, 3 soccer fields in the middle. And then the third, project would be, completion of the Heritage Park Master completion, is that the right word? Is there
Phase
more
2.
phases? Phase 2 of the Heritage Park Master Plan. Shoreline stabilization, increased pathway circulation, and then, there was which we've done a lot of already, but phase 1, included plans for pedestrian bridge, over, that would cross the Copper Slough. So a project that's, come up in our project meetings from time to time. It would be, we'd also, propose the addition of playgrounds, in this space, as well as maybe a new sculpture. To realize, the components of phase 1 and 2 within the master plan. So I'd love to hear any thoughts on these 3 projects, or if there's anything else that, you think we should be considering. OSLAD is funded at, $36 million, in this next cycle. And the maximum, award for any one project is $600,000. It is a 50% match, or 100% match.
50% for sure. Some of our areas that we're talking about may qualify that we would not have to match based on demographics around Dodds and Eisner. Don't quote me on that, we did do some more research on that, but I think that is a possibility.
They're as part of, it being within a disadvantaged, area.
So do we have anticipated ballpark costs for each one of these 3 scenarios?
We do not yet.
Having spent a fair amount of nights at Eisner myself. Parking. I don't know if there's where this can be utilized in any capacity with this grant, but I mean, when people park alongside that. And there's foul balls and kids running everywhere and it's a little bit chaotic. I don't know if you can incorporate that. I think this is a really good idea. I think 1 and 2 are probably my preferences.
I think that parking component, I mean, we've got a parking component in the CSR.
I don't know how you would incorporate it particularly there, but. And I know people are kind of up on the curbs and it's kind of, there are no curbs really.
We have recent feedback from the recently resigned director of the DNR and Patrick Davis, who's the administrator of the OSLAD grant program, has been that they've been more open to some of those type of costs in applications. I feel like we saw some evidence with that with the CUSR grant that we received, but other projects have also included infrastructure that would be outside of the recreation components that they've considered and funded.
I can't picture where you put any parking. I mean,
That's what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, other than if you tear down Hayes.
I would
Hayes
imagine
Center
if you
and put it
asked the
there.
neighbors, they would say, yeah, that's probably a good idea. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I think about it, it's parallel to 2 one-way streets and
Sure.
just not much space there.
I mean, new lighting is needed there.
Okay, I think we have that in here.
Right, I'm just saying about.
Yeah, updates.
And I like incorporating something new on space that just kind of sits vacant for. Not vacant, but not underutilized.
I think all 3 are worthy projects. Took the dog for a walk in all 3 here since we got this. Eisner, I agree. Just a sidewalk on the north-south sidewalk, just to connect things. I think that has to be done at some point. If you want to make that part of this grant, if you want to do that with this, that's fine. But the one that kind of really intrigues me the most is that heritage I don't know if you guys have gone in the prairie. It is, I did not realize how vast it is. I mean, it just goes back, for long.
Well, Champaign West Road, pretty hell.
Well, thank you, West Road, you guys are doing a bang up job. I like, again, I didn't even realize that was part of the park until I started thinking about jumping aboard here and actually went out and looked at these places. And then I didn't realize how vast it was, how far back it was. Where the public wants connected trails, here is a great chance to come off one of our, put a spur off of one of our, well, the longest continuous trail in Maine, right? Have a spur off of that and increase, and that trail does get a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people walking up and down. Yeah. So that one really, I don't think the public knows that that's over there, because I
Is there still a geese problem with that?
There's geese.
Well, that one was the worst.
Well, there's no geese in the prairie, so this
No,
gives you a
there are
chance
in
to
the path.
go.
They don't like tall grass.
Yeah,
This gives you a chance for a reprieve. You can go over the bridge, over this copper slough and hide away from the geese.
Mhm.
Anyway, that one, yeah, that one intrigues me the most just because it unlocks. And increases heritage floodplains, third basically, I mean, it just adds on.
The only thing from my viewpoint that could complicate that project would be because the city is in control of Copper Slough. You might have some administrative detail on having to get
Yeah.
permissions and so on, so I just throw that out there as some food for thought.
But when we put, isn't there a bridge out there currently?
I just can't answer that question.
Down towards.
on the
stuff.
trail, there's a
Yeah.
bridge to go over.
And it goes over the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying you may have to incorporate some form of agreement that, you know, if the city says, well, great idea, but we gotta do this. Does that impact timing or anything like that? I mean, maybe you just are able to take account for it. I'm just throwing it out there as a consideration.
Don't you appreciate that?
I have more of a broader question. OSLAD funding in general. Does that fluctuate considerably year to year within each budget, or is it pretty consistent at that number?
The past couple years, it's been 36 million. Prior to that, for a number of years, it was at 58. But it has been around 35, 36.
There were several years around COVID, they didn't distribute any of it based on budgetary constraints and not knowing where things were gonna go, so it bumped higher for a few years and has come back down to around mid-30s.
And is this the grant that sometimes it takes several years to get the money out?
No, they've actually, IZNR has hired a whole bunch of new grant administrators and, have actively worked on getting money out, and then, the grant itself has a pretty, like COSR, we have to be completely done with, the fall of 27, is that right? April, I'm sorry, so it's a 3-year?
2
Two. 2.
Well, in the past, it wasn't because people didn't do the projects, it's because the state didn't have.
Didn't get, yeah,
funds to.
Well, there was also suspension of grants during Governor Rauner's administration. Everything was just postponed, and I think, you know, part of the process since then has been to try and, as Sarah's indicated, trying to get things, if they're getting approved, let's get the cash out there to get those things done. The money that is used for this comes from real estate transactions. So the tax, the transfer tax is the state's share of that transfer tax goes into the OSLAD grant fund. And so, you know, to some degree, it depends ultimately, you know, the state of the economy is and real estate comes up.
Falling from legislative breakfast maybe a couple of years back. I mean, there was maybe a little bit of fear either right before that or coming out of that OSLAD was going to be upwardly reduced greatly as part of the budgetary concern. And they were very excited and happy when it was released at, 36 million or whatever the amount was.
I think because it hasn't been, there's been fear that the funds would get swept.
Yeah.
But but they haven't. Yeah, strong support.
So it's been consistent.
To fund it.
10.
So that's why I
Not
asked
touch
that
those
question,
dollars.
is how long can we expect this funding level to be there, or will it be there or not? And I know nobody can answer that, but I'm just from a historical standpoint. Huge fluctuations, I mean, that's kind of what you answered my question.
Okay. Jane, I think to your question or on budget on all of these, I feel like we don't have budgetary numbers, but and we could put some numbers to things, but also we could think about it in the opposite of this is the most that we would want to spend on the project, and then it's
That's why I said, are we talking $1 million? Are we talking 2 million? I mean, so we know if we get 600,000, the max from. I mean, it would be helpful to have some idea of what you think each one of these would cost.
with what's in
Just
the
from my point of view.
Especially
Sure.
with what we're doing with our visioning. I mean, we're all kind of feeling the pain of what we've been told we have to. Yeah, so if we did this, I mean, number one, the question is, how much is the max? I mean, you can ask for up to 600,000, but is that 100% or is it 50%? I personally wouldn't want to go.
400,000 is the match.
Yeah.
400,000 is the match.
So if we got 600,000, we'd have to put in 400,000.
Correct.
That would be okay with me. I don't know that I'd want to go a whole lot more than that.
No, that's why I was wondering what the price tag was, because like it seems that Dodds is probably the priciest of them all.
I would agree.
And the other thing we've learned, Jane, is that remember, if you put it in the application, you have to do it, whether the bid comes in astronomically higher than what you've said. So I'd rather look at this a little conservatively. With all that we have on our plate for some of the other things, so.
Between now and ahead of the next meeting, I think we can put together some numbers and here.
And conservative numbers.
Some conservative numbers,
Thank
but
realistic
Numbers,
numbers.
realistic numbers.
Yeah.
Don't dream, as we've said before, don't dream at the Cadillac.
Well,
dream at
even a
the
list of
Chevrolet.
things, if we say, okay, we've mentioned, all these things in this description, here's all of it, here's the estimate of that, and then here's where. If we. Prioritized that list.
Because this is over and above what the projected. Capital, this would be over and above what your capital projects for.
This would be for FY 28.
Okay.
We'd be
So
putting
it'd be
it in,
over and above what we already have on the budget projections for that.
it
It would be part of that,
would be in the next capital budget.
right?
So we don't have any.
We have projections.
Just what was incorporated into the CIP for
Right.
fiscal year 28, which, that we get, those are estimates and they get reevaluated, especially based on the conversation we had
Right.
tonight.
New vehicles.
But that, yeah, okay.
Up to the ground, whichever one. You have what you need from us on that. So
Yeah, I think so. Anyone have any I took notes and. Put some numbers together, and there's a Heritage Park master plan I'll send. That one, I mean, has a fully built out master plan, at least to see. The Smith Group's vision of that, it was done 10 years ago. But on all three configurations.
I don't quite know what we accomplished there. Was what we had envisioned, I guess I would say, regarding the shoreline and stuff, with the paths and everything.
We put in $1 million path for the keys.
Yeah, I said that the paths are very nice, but
And
the shoreline.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you will all join us at Lakeside Beachfurs and Eats. Moved to September this year, so it's not 1,000 degrees out, hopefully. It'll be year 3 of the event taking place at Heritage Park. We've also we've added our Lucky Dog 5K this past March, which started and ended at Heritage Park as well. And the police were happy to have us.
When is it in September?
It's on my calendar. 18.
I was gonna say 20th. Maybe
I think it's the 18th.
Or
Either the 18th or the 25th. Let me look. Sorry. 18th. Ooh, I was right.
September 18th.
It's a Friday night.
We have a Bruno Mars.
That was the goal.
We have a Bruno Mars
Coverage.
Coverage. I was gonna say like. Yes, and
That's good.
we're having Bruno Mars.
Don't put that on.
So it maybe track a lot of Hartland students and.
Adults only still.
Yes, it's a 21 plus stuff.
Okay. Next item, Champaign Park District Division, episode 2.
Yes, so we tried to gather some of the requested documents, and we put those in the board folder, in the board SharePoint folder. There are a number of maps. I had asked planning to overlay the density. It is, but it looks like it's just dense, the same density on all of them. So I tried to have him add some gradation, and he did, but
Did you put that in here?
yeah, in the 7/22/26 special meeting under maps so I asked Mitchell to pull this to GIS, and then we took the scholarships. So there was request for we have a number of different scholarship categories, and so we have activity scholarships, we have camp, and then memberships. And then there's also within that scholarship mapping is a CPD amenities, which is just our amenities. And then Joe's gonna pull these up on the screen. Go into that extra folder. Yep. So
I was kind of surprised by the scholarship clustering a little bit.
yeah, so we plotted each of those. I thought it was helpful. There's 3 of each of the categories. So there's just the scholarships across the district with the density overlay, and then there's a clustering, so to see a little bit more. I mean, because the one has like every single dot, and then he clustered them. I mean, it is dispersed, say, throughout. So we just get
Sarah, what year was this just done for the past fiscal?
Oh, it was 20. I wanted a full year, so 24 to 25. 25 to 26.
Okay, so one thing of note for that was first string was 100% almost 100% covered by the Dick's Sports Matter grant, which also would have impacted some scholarship usage in that area.
So those would have been considered scholarships or not?
I don't think that was
Not
processed through scholarship.
So they're not showing.
Right, they wouldn't be showing the chart, so 186 participants participated in first string free last year through the Dick's Sports Matter grant, as well as other few other options for Seaman, various things too.
And that was in 2025, but that wasn't available in 2026.
Correct, we are not getting that grade again. So, yeah, there's a bunch of these maps in here, for your, for your viewing, and then additionally, the comprehensive master plan, from 2019, which is a document that we create every 10 years. We'll be prepping to start working on the next iteration of it in this this upcoming budget cycle. And in the fall, we'll devote some additional time in a board meeting to discuss kind of what we've achieved, what's still left within the plan. It's a accreditation note to review every 5 years. There's also a document about just, what funds we have available, the definition of restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned, and non-spendable. With a bit of a forecast in there for projected year end and available funds that we might have to, talk about utilizing. At the last meeting, I feel like we talked a lot about a notion of, taking care of what we have and, maybe getting ahead of our deferred maintenance first before we consider the addition of new. And I'd like to start the conversation with that thought. Barb sent me an article today that she asked to print out for all of you. Kind of encouraging that thought that, it does mention quite a bit about referendums, and I don't think we're in any discussion about potential referendum, but
But the school district is,
but the school district is.
and that's gonna
Yes.
be impactful to our residents.
Received that survey.
Are you kidding me?
You didn't.
No,
I was just wondering,
The school district?
there's a text message survey, I got it, but
No, I did not.
others didn't.
okay, maybe it just went out to a slice of the people who have kids in school.
Well, it was really odd because it doesn't say who's doing the survey. Right, so I feel like we had good conversation 2 weeks ago, and, wanted to just continue that while it's still fresh in everyone's mind. We are looking to create a multi-year strategic plan, as well as, developing our 10-year capital plan. So, we didn't really identify any specific projects. We talked about a lot of different projects. I don't know that we need to identify a list of here's, the top 10 priorities, although it might be helpful to hear from you all, what falls at the top of your list. I know Mike at the last meeting, you talked about trails in Sholem and Bresnan, Prairie Farm, maybe.
Yeah, real quick question, the Prairie Farms update,
Yes,
in that folder 7/22/26 special meeting, just making sure I'm looking at that correctly, is it just, I mean, it's like the last few pages of
Yeah,
that.
yes, I was gonna
are
say,
the
it's
the option
50
two,
yeah, like pages, what, 56
yeah,
and beyond
yeah,
is, what they added in as of like, yeah, option 2 Centennial Park, but the thought is that if we shifted their concept idea of the Zon property being a satellite and an existing site, you building that out, these are their thoughts. And there's no cost associated with it, right? I think they just presented
just throughout it.
an idea of this is what you could do with the existing site to expand and enhance utilizing the amenities that are currently there.
Just making sure, yeah.
I struggled with that as well, because I kept going through it, and I'm
I
like,
know.
this is all the same stuff. I
Yeah.
always.
Sorry, I should have
That's
clarified
okay.
that. because
The last
it's
6
like,
pages
yeah,
are the new.
the first
Right.
53 are
Yeah.
exactly the same. The Williams remedial repair report was roughly 6.6 million. Listed Springer is a huge chunk of that. We've talked about Springer initial capital discussions for next year's capital plan, renovating the kitchen space, updating it. And I don't think we would want to focus on anything within the historic areas actually, but taking note of some of the interior spaces that could use a refresh and a look at. And then there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done on the exterior of the building as well too. So it would be exterior and interior, capturing some of the deferred maintenance as well as enhancing the space for additional programming and rental opportunities. Trails is something that's come up. It always comes up. So I don't know if, putting some dedicated funds in towards trail development is something that you all would be interested in. And, that could look at, that could mean looking at KRT more robustly, trying to make that missed connection with the Marathon Pipeline Trail or any missed connection within, also updating our trails plan, which is pretty outdated.
Open it up, I guess, thoughts from the
Well, I guess when we say we're gonna take care of what we have. As I look at that phrase. It could potentially mean taking down Douglas and rebuilding it. In my way of looking at it, I'm not saying that's, but when you talk about what you have, it doesn't necessarily mean take care of just the deferred maintenance. It means to make it what it should be or what you want it to be. So I just want to clarify that we're not just talking about going into Springer and taking care of that and things like that. I mean, it could be taking down the facility and rebuilding. So, I don't know where you start. Sarah and I kind of talked today about, do you come up with your 5 top, what your 5 priorities were if you were setting the priorities. It's somewhat overwhelming. And so it has to be taken in little bites. You just can't do it all. Springer, I'm surprised that you're saying rises to the level. I guess I hadn't thought about that, so I would want to go and, I think would be to take a tour at Springer and look at it. You talk about enhancing the kitchen. Well, we have a kitchen at Martin Center that's not utilized, so You know, what's the difference between utilizing this beautiful kitchen at Martin Center or, I mean, depending, because I got the impression it was to rent out the kitchen for. So we could probably, I know we didn't do the health department level at the Martin Center, but maybe that's what you do to get that to be more used. I don't know, but, you know,
I don't know how you get the kitchen at the Martin Center to be certified with the 3 compartment sinks and all the things you need to have.
I'm not familiar with what it
It
takes.
would probably need fire suppression.
Right. Yes,
But wouldn't you need all that if you did it at Springer?
yeah.
Not necessarily. I think this kitchen at Springer's really tired. It's, you know, and you could put in the capability for it to be just like a catering kitchen that has, you know, warming ovens and, I mean, there's any level of things that you could do with it, but it's been on capital, it's been pushed on capital, I think, since I started.
And would the renovations at Springer encompass any of the things that we are required to do for the federal government or not?
I wasn't intending that to be in there, just because at the moment, we've satisfied that requirement by earmarking it for in our long range capital, that when the carpet comes due for replacement. It could, I mean, you could bump that up, but
I don't know, and I don't know what the estimated cost to do what they want done.
they want it restored to what it previously was. We have a little bit of wiggle room on that because it's been functioning as a conference room, and we would want to continue with that. But, you know, I think restoring the tile floor and.
It wasn't a travestine tile.
Yeah, it's got terrazzo underneath. And then probably stripping the paint that's on the wainscoting.
But do we have any kind of an estimate what that cost is?
No,
Is the floor underneath the carpet not in usable shape?
I don't know. I don't know.
It
We're
did
going
find out
to
parents when they read the carpet.
doing the lobby.
Yeah.
Brett and I have more info, but when we restored the lobby, what the condition of the floor was. Might be an indication.
It's a restriction,
I imagine since it was a post office, it had a review.
Right.
Sure it is.
The restriction, if it's a.
This is part of
The designation.
the PPU agreement, the historic preservation program with the National Park Service. We have an agreement with them that was established when the Park District received the building in 1990. And there's language in it that says within a reasonable time frame, we will restore the historic parts of the building back to their previous state.
Remember
The
that?
equivalent of a deed restriction.
But just that L shaped.
Just the L-shaped lobby
Do you
is the only
remember that?
part that we're responsible
That was
for.
before my.
So even though the whole building is technically historic,
I wasn't here
the
when they
lobby,
accepted it.
the historic
That
lobby
was-
was originally
That would be
L-shaped.
36 years ago,
So
right?
we've satisfied the
That was.
main part of that restoration.
But it's
But
risen to the occasion.
like adjacent conference room
Because.
also used to be part of the lobby.
Said you had.
And
So it's the historic designation, that's.
Do we have any idea whether the tile underneath that carpeting has got asbestos in it?
do not.
It's terrazzo. If it's
Yeah,
terrazzo.
I don't think so. Yeah, it's not asbestos tiles.
Yeah, it's terrazzo.
It would be a
It's all terrazzo
stone,
under
yeah.
there.
I think it would be.
I mean, hopefully it's stone and in decent shape.
Yeah,
But,
I
no,
mean, so it would show some wear. It's still original.
It's historic.
What, how do you know what's original though? How would that, anybody at the national parks know what's original?
I don't know, it's a federal building, so they
I
have
think
plans.
the GSA would have whatever.
Right. They have plans stashed away somewhere.
So that might be one good place to start to see what the plans were, so you know before you tear up the carpeting, what's underneath it. How can you restore it if you don't know what it's supposed to look like?
Well, the PPU includes the plans.
You're looking for a list of capital projects, it seems like there's ones that are. You could manage, that you could do, and they don't touch anything else. You wanna renovate Springer and you make that more usable and great. Let's make it more usable and. You know, rent out the lobby for a wedding, redo the kitchen so caterers could use that, maybe. Show and pool, same thing, Virginia Theater, moving the lobby, same thing, but then there's certain projects that touch off other projects, like. This building. But you can't do this building, and you couldn't get rid of Hayes till you redo this building, and you can't redo this building until you do. The Leonard Center. Space over there and. It just seems.
Yes,
it seems like there's some that touch on.
That was like a 3-part pronged plan because divesting from Hayes displaces both participants and staff. And if there's I mean, I have a desire to have more staff centrally located in one spot. But in order for that to happen, this building needs to be renovated. This building is also not ADA accessible. And then a logical relocation would be an expansion of Leonard.
And this building needs to remain as the main office building of the Champaign Park District because operations is right there and it's just.
Centrally located in
It's centrally
Champaign.
located, yeah. So then it's a matter of. Do you wanna. Do a project that touches out multiple projects, or do we just handle the off projects that. Don't. Set off other ones.
Yeah, I think that's a big question. And for board appetite.
I mean, it's just such a vast question, right? I'm gonna have a different opinion than the rest of everybody else in this room is gonna have a different opinion, so I mean, it's just difficult to pinpoint one project. That we may broadly have a consensus on and actually gets. And it's just part of it, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I don't know if usage, how do you define usage? To me, we cater to the city of Champaign. What facilities, programs are the highest use? What condition are they in? To me, that is at least worth considering and saying, do we address it starting there? That's at least a starting point. By definition, they get the most use, the most attention. Now, is it because they're nice they get the most use, or do they not get enough use because they need to be brought up to speed? So you can interpret that a lot of different ways.
Right.
But that would at least quantify or draw our attention to one specific issue, program, whatever it may be. And again, that comes with its own problems that we'd have to work through, but. I haven't come up with a better alternative to at least pinpoint and say, okay. For the Champaign Park District, these issues need to be addressed. In this order.
Right.
With this urgency, whatever.
And Brett's not here, but I mean, he kind of indicated that he could handle multiple projects going on at once, so logistically. you know, you could take on two things at a time.
Well, do you wanna talk a little bit about funding strategy or?
So, yeah, that's a great segue. I think deferred maintenance is something that we definitely want to make sure is addressed first, and how we do that could be a number of ways. You know, annually, I provided in there an estimate of what recurring revenue looks like in each of the capital funds. Given, you know, what we're currently funding them at, like whether that be a transfer or property taxes, personal property replacement taxes, or bond proceeds. So just kind of giving an idea of like what's available in those to address each year. The ones that you probably want to pay most attention to is the capital improvement fund, which has right around I think in there it's 2 million. $2 million annually, but the biggest portion of that is related to our bond proceeds, our annual debt issuance, that we use to fund our capital projects, which in turn is basically, you know, property tax levy funds that we get every year. So trying to determine like how much of that we need to use for deferred maintenance versus how much we want to build new. In my mind, if we're looking at doing like a big project, you'd want to look at one-time fund balance. So that's the funding that you would have available above any reserves that we have in our funds like general fund, which has no restrictions. Recreation fund, which is limited to those that are focused on recreation, or the museum fund, which is going to be anything educational. So we're talking for museum, that would be Virginia Theater, Springer, and Prairie Farm. Recreation would be any of our other recreational facilities. Bresnan and operations would be ones that you wouldn't necessarily want to use those funds because those are restricted. So you'd probably be looking at either using capital improvement, like our general fund money that's available for those projects. We've traditionally only done an annual debt issuance, but if there was an appetite in a future year where you want to have more bond proceeds for like a bigger project, we could potentially structure it where it's a 3-year debt issuance. So we could get maybe like $4 million of bond proceeds that we then pay off over the next 3 years. There's, you know, a little bit, you're gonna have higher cost related to that, but if you're wanting to have, you know, project funds available now, not have to worry about bond arbitrage or anything like that, which different reporting requirements, but making sure that we're spending it down in time, but that could be another alternative if you had a big project come up. But given the available one-time funding that we have projected, you could potentially look to that first as an initial source. So, not saying we wouldn't want to spend down all of those because we've built up reserves. We do have we would always maintain the 120-day reserves, but potentially looking at, you know, 5 to 8 million of general fund, maybe program in $3 million of projects in recreation, and then another 6 million in museum. So it kind of gives you a ballpark of what kind of balances you could utilize there, knowing that when we're budgeting for the next year, we always make sure that our recurring revenues are above our recurring expenditures, and we have a net income funds, because that's our operating, those are our.
So the ending fund balance shown unaudited for 2025-2026, that has the 120-day reserve in it.
It does not.
That's
So
already
that
taken out.
that's before the 120-day reserve, which is why I tried to reflect, like, if we're looking for like
That's
the vision
That's
funds.
before.
Yes, correct.
So the 120 is in.
So yes, it is. What I was trying to reflect was what kind of funds would be available starting for fiscal year 28. So not
this year. Because we already have the capital improvement plan budgeted for, so it's really looking at next year, like what kind of funds we could anticipate having available. So the reserve is about $5 million across those three funds we'd want to maintain. The general fund being about 2.6 million, recreation being 2 million, and then museum being. How much for museum? 1.1 million.
Isn't that on this report with the?
Yeah, so that is on the, so if you look at the forecast of operating funds, we do have. So that was something that we provided with the budget adoption. It's the PDF document, and that one really does focus on general rec. And it's meant to indicate trends as we kind of look out into the future, not exact dollar amounts, but it gives you an idea of what the reserve fund would need to be each year, how much net income you could anticipate if we were to spend everything that's budgeted, which we traditionally don't spend everything. Kind of gives you a sense of what that trend could look like over the next 5 years. But I haven't refreshed it for the coming budget year, so it's based off of last year's estimates. So one thing that Brett and I were going to work on is with the CIP showing like, okay, this is how much is anticipated over the next years and revenues from these specific funds against what's included in the capital improvement plan. So you can kind of see where we would need to fill in the gaps with either one-time funding or other sources like grant funding or things of that nature. But the ideal thing would be to make sure that we're covering all of our routine maintenance stuff with what's available. What?
Where would you want to start? Or, throw it open to staff, where do you guys see the need? Jimmy? You got any insight, Jimmy, on?
Jean, you want to talk about the usage of Springer?
I mean, we get.
Can I stop before somebody references a document? Let me know which document you're referencing, because I've got 5,000 open up. So if you reference a document, let us know which document you're referencing, so we can. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're pretty heavily in and out. Pottery and ceramics for sure. Sorry, you're all blurry. I apologize. Pottery and ceramics for sure. And waitlist, but also that's mostly because we're limited to the amount of space that we have available to do those. Not that we wouldn't want to accommodate, you can only take so many in the spaces that we have available for them. In the summer camps specifically too, I would say, could we expand? Yes, but again, you're limited to the space that you have available. So you're moving things around into spaces that aren't necessarily designed for what it is that they're being utilized for. Yes, we have these beautiful dance studios and they're being utilized for the dance program, and our goal is to obviously grow those dance programs. But we also have spaces that could be more multi-purpose and functional in design if they were reconfigured. The way that they're set up isn't designed for the way that we're using them, I guess is the best way to describe. So like camp is in a very long room that isn't designed for staff.
How did you do
Yeah,
to improve the pottery and ceramics? I mean, is there a way to improve the space?
Just kidding.
Is it not? It needs to be moved to a different facility.
I wouldn't say necessarily move to a different facility. I think if spaces where we can figure, there are also looking big picture, like preschool is in a bad spot. I wouldn't put preschool in Springer. I think it's in an inconvenient location in the facility, whereas if you were to keep the arts as far as like ceramics and pottery and even growing any other kind of arts, painting, drawing type classes, like that's a good spot for them, but we're limited because half of the basement is taken up by the preschool program that's utilizing that space only in the mornings and early afternoons, and then you're not utilizing that space in the afternoons and evenings. So if you had preschool in a different location where you can use that as a multi-purpose space at different times of the day after that's over, then you have more options available to you.
What if we move preschool to Leonard, to the area at Leonard? Why do we even offer preschool?
I was gonna ask who utilizes the preschool and how many. And is it all year round and how many enrolled leads are there?
We have, I think, a good base. It is utilized fairly well by families, and we have a lot of returning families. A lot of families do utilize it. I hesitate to say it out loud in public forum, as a daycare type option. But
When you string together the
when you,
various
yes,
programs.
yes, we have enough options available that they can be there for a good portion of the day.
Each classroom has a maximum of 20.
Mhm.
And how many classrooms are there?
There are three.
Three classrooms.
If they were set up a little bit differently, I feel like we could accommodate age groups a little bit differently.
Yeah, and we have a big indoor playground space in there that.
Right, that is just indoor playground.
And what I was asking is kind of, you know, what is it people that work downtown that bring their, do we know where, you know, is it the location that attracts the children there? Or is it just because?
No, I think it's just the program itself.
Program.
Yeah,
I think it's regarded as a good.
It's a good, yeah.
So it could be relocated someplace else.
And how,
I think, yeah.
and how does the cost compare to what, there's a Methodist church down there, I believe has a daycare as well, or somebody else.
I think we're in line.
Are we cheaper? Is that why people are using us, or are we at the same at the?
5-day, half-day program is $2,600 for what, September through May.
Yeah, that's non-resident though.
Oh, that's right.
That's not taking into account resident rate discount. I think we are reasonably in line with what else is being offered in town, with the exception of like obviously your Head Start programs and programs that are in schools, in the school district, stuff like that. So, and we have our monthly, we have payment plan options available, stuff too. Scholarship that a lot of places don't have, so.
Except CCRS for
CCRS,
preschool.
That too. So we have the options available. It's just, my personal feeling, it's just not an ideal location for it. So we don't have outdoors, we don't have outdoor space. If they wanna go to the park, they have to go outside across the street to West Side Park, like, it's just.
Right.
There are,
So could
there
you move
are,
them to Martin Center in the morning? Possibly, and then open up the lower level for your pottery and your ceramics.
potentially, yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
yes, in the
That's
classroom.
why that's why I asked if the location mattered as to who.
Right.
For some, it might. For some, I won't speak for parents, but
But the majority of.
them, I think would go where the program goes, not because I won't say Springer's the draw.
That storage building is not the draw.
I won't say the basement of Springer is the draw.
Now, would it,
They are currently utilized their Boys and Girls Club, but per our agreement,
That's what I was going to say,
It would
during
run
the school year, it wouldn't
use-
be much of an issue, because most of the children do not cover in school during the day.
yes, we would,
During the summer, it might be.
we don't offer,
You don't have this-
or we
We
have some.
we have summer, high school summer camp,
Mhm.
yes.
And because you have a park there, you'll have an in-ground play
Mhm.
areas.
Mhm.
Yeah, based on our agreement with Boys and Girls Club, that would be challenging this summer, but not spring.
Right, yeah. And then,
Definitely something to consider.
I mean, it would be nice, yes, to make Springer a truly fully functioning cultural arts center. And have that be the focus for the building itself.
And are we limited by what we can do there? Because it's a historic building, because I know in Virginia, they were very picky about what we did.
we're not.
I
Not
heard
in
you
those
mention
areas.
Martin, and I just wanted, because when we worked on the design, we designed it so that they could put, the Boys and Girls Club could put all their stuff away. And the rooms could be utilized, so. That can still be done.
I agree.
Okay, one problem solved. What do you want to move on to next?
The Williams survey did have Springer with the most deferred maintenance issues that we had to kind of tackle, correct, so.
Mhm.
I mean, it's already at the top of the list. Anyway.
It definitely is. Tyler, to your, question about usage, well, Leonard is our most used building.
Yeah.
By all ages.
Mhm.
It's busy from the open to close. People utilizing the fitness center, people taking fitness classes there. Teenagers in open gym, well, and all ages in open gym. Summer camp is fully booked, for all ages plus teens. Summer,
A lot of athletic programming.
or your basketball program, or pickleball. Let's not forget about
The
pickleball.
fitness classes are held there at Leonard. Could they be held at Martin Center as well?
Some of them, I think it's just a little bit of a demand issue on the timing with our partnerships and, everything going on, but yes, some,
But are most of the fitness classes in the morning? Or a lot of them are?
it's, I mean, there's definitely evening classes, but then like, Joe Rodriguez's class is a midday class.
Okay.
It would probably be impacted in like the summertime potentially. Our arrangements right now, that room is being utilized by CSR's adult care program during the day, so it's not currently available for
Classes?
yeah, classes during the summer. So but we could get creative and look at all of our options and for that for sure.
It would be interesting to see if you did move some of the fitness classes to the Martin Center, how you're.
Right.
That's one thing I do wonder is, typically they say that you were going to work out in a place with the maintenance of your home or job. And so just proximity wise, is that the best location for some of those classes, or would people travel, or? Yeah,
We have to look at the demographics of the people that you
Yeah.
have in the classes.
I would also just kind of throw in not usage wise. Data center is high usage, but
Yeah.
revenue wise, I mean, what I handed to you guys there, if you look at the number one revenue source is that I sorted it by largest revenue source down in data center. Court time is our number one sales by a significant amount. And so that's a revenue opportunity that could then, it's the only facility in the black that could then, investing in that space could then turn into other funds to help invest in future projects as well. And personally, I think that there needs to be some tackling with the envelope and some water and remediation that needs.
Where is this at?
The tennis center.
Oh, the tenant.
Yeah. I think that the pickleball, if it was able to be done, that could add a lot of revenue with limited extra expenses there as well.
What is that? Tell me what, converting some courts to pickleball courts?
Expanding to add 4 pickleball courts.
Williams Architects had the plan to add on 4 indoor courts along Interstate Drive along that side, right?
Yeah.
You may run into some detention basin
Possibly.
issues doing that. Just saying.
Carl, do I have any intention?
Yeah, we can figure out.
We play at the bar, and that's it.
I don't know if it was anticipated for an expansion there.
So facilities priority list, I'm hearing Springer, I'm hearing. Dodds Tennis Center.
Yeah.
I'm hearing Lane.
And I gotta throw in Douglas, guys. I certainly think that if we don't address Douglas in some way. I think it would be unfortunate. All you gotta do is go over there and go through it, and you talk about a tired building. It has the limited ADA, to me, it hits all of the same bells and whistles that. We've talked about the other buildings, except that we're not. Programming it to an extent right now, so.
I agree, I think we need to do something there now, because I don't think we're gonna be able to afford what. The Williams Architects plan had with,
Well,
full renovation like that.
10 years ago, we looked at the former Leonard Center, now the CU Special Rec Building, and we were ready to tear it down because we were told it was not worth saving. And look at what we did to that. I mean, there may be a way to do something with Douglas without tearing it down and building an absolute new building. There may not, but it's never been, and why would you build 2 big rec buildings like 8 to 10 blocks from each other?
I see these as community centers. And I was disappointed that Douglas wasn't listed as a community center. Because after all the people who have come here and talked to us, they definitely view it as a community center. It doesn't have to be at the magnitude of a Martin Center. It doesn't have to be at the magnitude of perhaps a Leonard Center. But I do believe that that area would benefit from a functioning program place that is available as a community center for them.
And I could see a community center type building But, I mean, with, you know, some walking, a basketball court, something, you know, but, like I said, I don't know that any architects looked at the structure that is there to see if it could be modified or retrofitted without tearing it down and starting all over.
Well, let's face it, what Williams came up with were dreams. Here's what you could do if you had lots and lots of
And that's
money.
with every building.
Every consultant, and that, you know, when we went through the buildings, we were all dreaming about what could be there. But now when you apply the money to it, you've got to sit down and say, what is feasible there?
And like I said, we were ready to tear down.
Well, I did, but we've also sucked a lot of money into that building, so, yeah.
But what do we consider a lot?
It's had a lot of money put into it, but again, it doesn't matter, we resurfaced it, but look at, I mean, we're not the only ones that do that, the school district was ready to sell Columbia School, and now they've put a lot of money into it and refurbished it. I'm not saying we can't refurbish the building. I am just suggesting that if it's not high on our priority list, I would be disappointed.
I'd like to see somebody look at what could be done here so that staff could all be in this building together. I think there are ways you could probably expand this building without adding on to Leonard, so that all staff's in one location instead of spread across different locations.
I think the thought of expanding Leonard would be to replace the programming space that would be lost at Hayes.
Can Leonard even be expanded? You know, there's the geothermal space. And I don't recall when it was designed, at that point in time, I don't think there was any conversation about it ever being expanded. So yeah, I don't know if that's even an option.
Put it, Leonard, so why did you want to expand it, Leonard? Replace what space?
The programming space that's at Hayes that
Hayes.
so Hayes is both staff and senior programming
spaces there at Hayes.
There's a large multi-purpose room, there's a kitchen, there's
I know, but what
seniors.
Senior.
We also do adult special events there. Our newly added puzzle competition events. We've done bingo there. Hayes gets rented.
So if you did something, I mean, this space only gets used how often? Couldn't like a space like this have Bresnan be programmed for puzzles and, you know, other things like that? I mean,
yeah, we need a kitchen. There's a weekly potluck that takes place there that it's 40 or 50 people a week. But yeah, sure.
I think we just need to be creative and look at what we have and see how, instead of always building new or doing some things. I mean, I don't know. If we have space, we should work so that it's fully utilized.
I think that across the district there are a lot of unused spaces, or I mean, look at my office.
Yeah, you can subdivide that.
Yeah, you could have puzzles down there.
You know, I know
we can't, because there's no elevator in this building, so
that's one of the issues.
Actually,
the foundation of a lot of our buildings were things that were given to us and not and taken and figure out a use for them, but they converted
at the time. But and I think we are at a point in the history of the district to think about. Okay, now we've had these buildings, we've utilized them, and we've been creative about the use, and as our the demand for the community has changed and what they're looking for in terms of programming. our needs have changed as well too, and so we need to think about how we can utilize these spaces, to their.
And the architectural design of some of these buildings at the time in which they were built makes it extremely difficult to rearrange and.
Yeah, all this air up here, I mean, beautiful, but also very.
Never look at them because I don't like it now.
Whoever
What are you gonna do?
Our lobby.
Split levels needs to be kicked, because, yeah.
Right.
Go
That's what I mean.
upstairs,
It's just that
downstairs,
one
underground,
thing that's like that.
But you get more,
Extremely difficult to.
less land.
Okay. You know, that Williams certainly does have, I mean, a renovation of Douglas,
Mhm.
one of the options, that was option one. It does have the, Bresnan Meeting Center. $5 million to renovate to be able to fit everybody in here as far as an office space, so.
I mean, for the same reasons that you wanted the yard out back close to the building so people didn't have to drive and stuff, I think is the same reason why you want to try to get all the staff here, so people wouldn't have to commute back and forth to come to meetings and stuff. That would be.
Yeah. For sure.
So keep in mind that in today's environment, people aren't working in offices.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Our frontline staff, you work in
are.
office.
You are, but there are others that aren't. So are there spaces, are there office spaces in town that are sitting empty that would be available to put some of the staff in if you like took down Hayes Center or whatever?
I suppose we could look at that and buy office.
You wouldn't have
space.
to buy, you could rent. You don't have to own everything that you utilize.
There is not a lot of office space close to here. There's a lot downtown and Research Park and Fox Drive is available.
So
Or
what
out
about
at,
meeting with Chris Saunders and asking him about what he's doing with Country
I
Fair?
think he will be charging a pretty penny.
Well, it might be worth a conversation with him. He's got a lot of space there. That's not being utilized right now.
One of the problems we're trying to solve was getting staff in one central location, correct, so, I mean.
Well, at one time we talked about moving staff out and letting operations have all of this building. That was a discussion at one point in time.
Before, well, that was before my time, but then we added on to operations.
We didn't add any office space to them, I think
Yes,
we
we
really
did.
did.
We did too.
We just
And
added the,
Where are the, like, where are they?
I don't think we
Oh,
added
is that-
any office space, but you still say that, they say that.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a couple added,
Converted to other home spaces into office space because they moved stuff.
but it wasn't added.
And the drive-in bays were converted so they could have team meetings out there and stuff that some offices were shared and staff determined that everybody didn't need their own individual office because a lot of the time they're out in the field working.
Yeah, I mean, in the Williams Bresnan plan, there's not everybody, there's a large open space, where we have cubicles or open office, open concept offices, we definitely don't think everybody needs to have their own office. More space needed. There's recommendations in this report of a renovation of Douglas. They estimated it at 12 million. But it's a renovation and an addition. on that. So, I don't know, is there an appetite to ask for a second opinion from somebody to look at what, gutting the inside Douglas and.
I think before you ask, at least my personal opinion is, before you go and ask somebody to give us another, like they did for, if Prairie Farms became the primary and Zon became the secondary, whatever. I think, to me, we have to figure out what it is we want Douglas Center to be. And what is it going to provide for the community? And so I don't think that step has been taken yet. This is, yeah, this is a great plan. It shows you what the options may be, and there's obviously the ADA part that if we kept the building, that's a given. But I think there has to be a little bit more conversation, perhaps with the community there, to find out, obviously, we're not gonna put a swimming pool in. But, find out what their needs are, and then scale it to what, your financial commitment would be. And the other thing you'd have to add in is that it has to be available for the community, for them to utilize during the day. So there would be added staffing to it.
Where does that fall in priorities? I mean, this is.
To me, it would be one of the top 5.
Well, that's what I mean, all of these, we've identified this, I don't think this Williams architect report should be shocking to anybody. I mean, it is what it is, it's out there. So that's my, do you want us to prioritize which ones to do in order, now that we've said. Of all the reports that we've got, to which there are many, is this gonna be our focus? Is this where we're gonna dedicate our time and resources to improve some of this? I would be okay with it, I think that's great, let's address it, because they're not going
I
anywhere.
think that's the reason why we did the study,
Yeah,
is to get, some information on where there's. A large need for, deferred maintenance attention, our, ADA, audit and plan update. To go alongside of that.
but I think
And
not
then
only,
the community survey of, what the community is. What's at the top of the community's list.
yeah,
Yeah, and that is the intent of, being in studies or. Almost.
I guess I was kind of surprised by the Williams survey, because I thought they were going to just assess our buildings and tell us like what needed to be updated, repaired to bring them up to, what kind of deferred maintenance and stuff. I didn't know they were going to add all these things like pool at Leonard and, this new building at Douglas, and just be out there for everybody to think that that's what we were going to be doing.
So that would lead to my question, and I kind of referred to it earlier. So when you go out and have a consultant come in and look at your buildings and stuff, they're gonna come back. And you all were involved, because Mike and I went on a lot of the tours, so there were a lot of great ideas. But there's different levels of what you could do. You could come in and you could do the bare bones. You could come in and you could do a little bit more than the bare bones, or you can come in and do the top. What do you think this report is? Is it fulfilling the dreams and aspirations that everybody gave for, like, the facility like Douglas or a facility like Leonard? Or is it that this is absolutely the basic that you need to do? Where does it stand on that level?
Yeah, I think that it was a multi-phased scope of work for Williams. The first phase of the scope was to do the remedial repair recommendations. They completed that, they presented that in September. The second phase of it was to in partnership with staff, we had a pretty large group of staff that participated in regular calls with Williams, was to look at the existing facilities and talk about where we have challenges with space, where we're tapped out on programming, where we have areas that are underutilized. And that's what came of these recommendations, these ideas, these dreams, these thoughts of, okay, well, if you were to think about all of your spaces and to bring them into a new chapter, and here are some ideas that there's no commitment. Board hasn't committed to anything. But they're ideas with some relative cost projections on them as well to get the juices flowing on this conversation. And I think that they fulfilled the scope of their contract, and there was significant staff input involved in creating this plan.
Are they doing anything for?
No, I mean, we fulfilled their contract.
My takeaway from the community survey was clean parks, connected trails. Don't move prairie farms. And renovate Douglas. And that was kind of what I took from a lot of those comments. Maybe I'm missing, but that was, aside from some one-off comments and. That was kind of what I took away from that. The ADA, the survey, I think that, obviously that's something we're constantly pursuing. So yeah, then it just becomes a matter of the Williams architects and what you think about those ideas and what the priority is for projects. I think we've got Springer on the list. It's all a lot of deferred maintenance. Martin's make way for daycare. The
That might be a.
That,
Leonard make way for senior programming. And Dodds Tennis Center. What can we do to make it more, make it prettier for generating more revenue, since that is more, that is the revenue generator as far as facilities.
I mean, it feels like a list.
Lobby left the concession location for the Virginia.
For the Virginia, I think if you can tackle that project and get it knocked out. Financially, logistically, I think that.
I mean, I don't know what that, how many times have we redone that lobby?
I don't know,
We had Michael's Catering. Set it up as a catering kitchen, that was the last remodel. Remodel before that. So some of the
that's when they did the East Lobby.
that's, yeah.
And they complain that it is a bottleneck when people come to performances, when they're in the line waiting for concessions and people are trying to get in and everything.
Yeah, it's challenging.
But there's really, it's gonna be interesting to see how you could ever get rid of it, because that's the way the building was built.
Well, you put the lobby over where but are we allowed to do that? Because of its historical whatever.
Well, the building was actually built without a concession stand. So the addition of it
Because I
existing
know we
concession
ran into the
stands.
problem, we couldn't put in triple pane windows because they had to be single pane because they were historic space. Even though it would save energy and everything, we were not allowed to do that, so there were just things that were.
There definitely might be some additional hoops to jump through, but I think we could.
Specifically for the Virginia Theater, there's also the restoration fee that could be utilized, which is in the foundation, so that's something that we could look to fund some of those projects.
And I mean, I guess. We wanna see what they were proposing before. I agreed to, oh yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say you'd wanna see what the,
Proposing for the new concession area.
oh, yeah, it's, I mean, this is just that squares on the plan, so
Yeah.
it's not super detailed. Add dedicated concessions to relieve congestion, we imagine lobby experience. Is the description. Um.
Okay, Springer, Leonard, Martin's Dots. Somewhere in there, top 5, eventually Douglas. You wanna look at eventually. What for the second opinion, was that?
But if you did that to the Virginia, then you'd have no. Like. Space for like graduations, U of I graduations, that's for people. Professors and the people that were on stage, that's the exact what you don't have any. For other types of events that they've used that room for different things. That would be gone. Would that prevent people from renting the Virginia then, if this area was all concession? Instead of open area?
I don't know.
Well, it's something we need to figure out since that's not one of our biggest money makers. I mean. We can't afford to lose more money there.
I would agree.
Keeping in mind that not shutting off, right? I mean, it wouldn't close up that area, it would still.
Yeah, I think 2A and 2B would be
That's
like a renovation of that, to turn that into kind of
for
a
people.
the primary
Brings money, so.
concession area with some line control measures. Some dedicated line control measures. But I mean, yeah, it would need a look for sure, a deeper look. I mean, I think all of these would need a deeper look. These are again just they're not fully formed plans.
Some of which what you're referring to is the merchandising that's happening in there and would be relocated to the 1A location now. So I know some of it's
sales are.
Yeah.
And is that going to cause congestion too? Because if we're just moving.
Right, one to the other.
Yeah.
Less, because it would be swag, right? So a lot of people do that after the show.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's at the beginning too. Yeah, and at intermission.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited.
True.
Yeah. Some spaces just have limitations. And when you walk in the Virginia Theater, you expect to smell the popcorn. And you expect to stand in line. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice If you could.
Probably leaving
remedy.
money on the table from people
Selling
who
popcorn?
don't, yeah, who are like, oh, no way, that line's too long.
If it's just a bag of popcorn, okay, leaving that on the table.
We good on discussion then?
I feel like there's, I don't know, a little more direction.
Okay. Took good notes on our discussion. Do you have-
Wait, I suppose I have a video.
Okay.
I guess I have a question though, did you want to potentially look at, keep those topics in mind? Potential funding for which fund it would come out of?
I'd say we get to that part next. I mean, sure, but I mean. I guess, Mike, do you have more direction? Do you feel like you have the direction or are there questions you want us to answer for you more directly than what we have? And I have them?
I think I have a little bit more direction. I feel like I'm hearing, you know, a little bit of consensus on maybe focus, maybe not a specific list, or maybe there is a list. It's more than I think, I don't know, 5 things. I don't think we're talking about, you know, stuff that we're gonna get done next year. Talking about, you know, a span of a few years, and so.
Really what we're talking about is how do we prioritize what we have to do?
Right.
And how does it rise to the top of the list, or how does it?
And the cost, and as we do.
Right.
studies, what,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
what
You
does
know,
it do to the.
As I look at, you know, the Bresnan Center, while I do believe it needs a lot of work, but it is functioning right now. You know, you all are functioning well you all are functioning in this building. You know, so is that one of the ways you look at some of these things? You say that the stuff at the lower level of Springer isn't really functioning very well. So that's one way I would look at some of these things. What is functioning now, and we can hold off for a while? What has more immediate need?
But one of the things is like with Eisner Park. And that building isn't functioning. He got rid of it and turned that space into more parking. But then you have to have some place to put those people and the seniors, so you can't do that till you address the other. So is that a higher priority than some of these other things? I don't know. I mean.
Well, and in the report, when I designate near future priority as 6 to 10 years, that's what I think everybody has to understand. This isn't gonna start next spring and say. This is a very long process that is gonna take some time. And maybe modified along the way.
Well, yeah, that's why I feel like, and I don't need a list of, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, because I don't think that's the order that it's gonna happen anyway. I think we're gonna change, and we're gonna adjust, and if you all, you know, have a shared vision of how we wanna approach these conversations, then we can talk about, you know, projects and.
So if you don't want us to come up with priorities, what are you expecting us to come up with? Are you expecting us to come up with the budget amount that you can spend, or, yeah, cause I'm confused now. If we don't, if we're not.
I think everything could be justified as a priority.
But I can't, but we don't have.
We don't have the
Yeah,
means,
so now
right.
what do we do?
So we, you know.
Somehow you have to pick what's a priority,
right?
Which is gonna create a list of what's prioritized.
And so we've talked about some of that this evening. Talked
So
about,
we have kind of, a list of about 5 things that.
Yeah, right. But I don't think that we solidified exactly of that list what we're going to tackle.
No.
So we've got more discussion and more things to think about.
Good thing we're elected to 6-year terms.
Incidentally, the near future is 6 to 10.
Isn't that amazing how that works?
Should be 6 to 12.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, the board will convene into executive session under Illinois Open Meetings Act, specifically 5 ILCS 122(c)(5). The purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired. Need a roll call, I need motions over it.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call vote.
Commissioner Cool,
Yes.
Commissioner Summers,
Yes.
Commissioner Solon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rouse,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Been to.
Awesome.
How was his voice?
It was good.
Yeah,
Yeah. He had to sit the whole time because he just had his knee reconstructed a couple months ago. 'Cause he fell on the street.
he didn't go to see his knee.
Like
Well,
you
I
said.
said he didn't go to see his knee.
No, I mean, he told us that's why he was sitting and he couldn't stand, but he was great. The crowd was great. He came back 3 times and was just,
Wow.
I mean. Yeah.
Other comments from the commissioners? Annie was very good. Right. That's right, because I think you were tailing me back to the neighborhood.
Was that?
Yeah.
Was it?
No, I said, I told my wife, we just couldn't spare her off. Okay, all right, if that is it, then.
I move we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very much.